The world economy is going through tough times and India isn't unfazed either. While a strong domestic demand has kept the Indian economy afloat, the pace of growth has slowed down considerably. To put the economy back on track, Indian corporates and SMEs need to invest in new initiatives while being austere in their investments. In such a scenario, the role of the CFO becomes important in charting the future course of the company. To discuss the changing role of the Chief Financial Officer, Bloomberg TV India, in association with Karur Vysya Bank, organized the CFO Conclave 2013, a platform that brought together financial leaders from different verticals to devise strategies to cope with a struggling economy and to discuss emerging business models and best practices.
The discussion today in the first panel is about the new role of the CFO and what is the new normal. So we've already got the answers. The new normal is volatility, confusion, and what's the role of the CFO? Well, everything really, because he's almost like somebody in a squash court with a ball coming at him from all directions. But what's interesting about this panel, and that's the reason we're starting off with this panel, is that we've got a very, very interesting group of companies represented here, companies that represent different verticals of the Indian economy. Some are consumer facing like the Future Group and Marico, some are commodity based manufacturers like JSW, and we've got of course a banker's view and an expert's view on how things are stacking up. So I think let me start off with Mr. Rao and pick up from where he left off in his opening speech. The new normal is a tough normal to be in, and I think you set it up well when you said that change is a constant in business as it is in life, and in this case what we can see from the successes is what we should take away. So let me start off with that. With so much happening around at the macro level, at the micro level, at the individual company level, how would you prioritize the concerns for somebody sitting in your chair?
Today, as I mentioned to you, the concerns around us is, one is economic. Economic means the demand is not very strong in India, and investment cycle is not reversing, it is not picking up, interest rates still high. So that is one type of problems which each CFO has to tackle, because we cannot allow that our plants will not run below its installed capacity. It has to run at full capacity. We have to sell what we produce. For that, the kind of strategies one need is the product differentiation, different types of products, different geographies. These are the kind of strategies one should have, a uniqueness in its product. This should evolve over a period of time to address those issues where economic cycles will continue to hit. But the situation today which we are seeing in India, is it a normal economic business cycle where a downturn we are seeing, or is something else different? Because we feel it is something different. Why we say so is, there is something which never happened, it is happening in India. A company which has signed an agreement for allocation of gas, and gas allocation has happened, based on which financing has been done, project has been set up, it is running. Suddenly government decided gas is not available from tomorrow. Our priority will be given to fertilizer sector or XYZ sector, steel sector, you will not get the power gas from tomorrow. What do? What happens to the banks? This challenge as a CFO, how do you handle? One. Number two, which I explained to you, we went and invested 50,000 crores of rupees in a state where 10% of the total reserves of iron ore reserves are located in the state of Karnataka. No captive iron ore mine has been given because of different policies which are there in India. Because of illegal mining which has happened, iron ore mining ban. From tomorrow iron ore is not available, which is key input for steel making. As a CFO, what will you do? What is the kind of strategy you will have? So that is where I think we followed a little different policy than what others have done. You should have the signals which you would get before the event happens. So when mining ban was happening, there were signals coming in. Because of that, we invested 1,000 crores in a process where it can use very low grade iron ore, 40% to 50% iron ore, and convert into finished usable iron ore for steel making. We also created infrastructure to handle iron ore outside Karnataka to bring at least partially. These are the two proactive steps which the company has taken. Due to which what happened? When iron ore was available low grade, which was not sellable, when everything was okay, there was no competition. JSW was only the company which could use that iron ore, because we could see that this is usable in future. We invested this amount to reduce the cost, because we can buy low grade iron ore at low cost, thereby my cost of production will be lower, I will become competitive. But it helped in a different environment where mining ban has happened. And I can use which cannot be used earlier by anybody. This is one thing.
So innovation has been the key. Let's pick on that and come to Mr. Venkatraman. Mr. Venkatraman, I think Mr. Rao makes a good differentiation between the market related slowdown and hence the challenges that a company faces, and the uncertainty which has become the new word in the lexicon for a lot of companies. As a banker, when you are looking at stressed assets and companies come to you, what sense are you getting? Because if you've done 3 decades of Indian banking, you've also seen the Indian economy go through various phases. It's not the first time, and we often forget it's a very young economy, which is understanding economic cycles. Often policy is not yet kept pace with the marketplace, and a lot of it is being retrofitted in the current environment. What sense are you getting? Is that uncertainty perhaps the biggest problem for a CFO today, for a company today?
As far as the uncertainty is concerned in the market or in the operating environment, it is for the entire management team to have to address. As the management team is addressing these issues, the role of CFO in looking at it as what exactly is happening as far as the funding is concerned. What exactly is happening? How are we going to fund this? At many point of time, when the management takes a decision, whether this is a profitable venture or whether this is the return will be commensurate, is something which it has to be done, some evaluation has to be done by the CFOs. What I am trying to say is that the CFO's analytics of the entire business and the risks which the business is taking have to be done by him. Because it is ultimately he who has got to provide funding for a project or an operation or even for a development of a product. Will this work or not? Financially, after all, a business is there for profits. After all, a business is there which has got to see that whatever is invested gives a return of as much as possible. So will it bring the return or not is something which the CFO may have to look at. And from the banker's perspective, when we look at the CFO formulating his plan for funding a particular operation or business and then seeing that the returns are coming, generally what happens is the leveraging that is being looked at. Now, when you say the stress in the market now it's going up, particularly because of various economic factors, uncertainties, the regulatory changes, the policy changes, all those issues will bring uncertainties.
Milinda, you represent a sector which many believe has been the best off in a period of crisis, because FMCG and anything consumer facing has not had a rough patch. You're not too dependent on the government for clearances, etc., but you have other issues, which is of course preparation for GST, etc., which have been held back. My question to you is that in the current situation, are you happy that you're in FMCG and away from all the mess in the rest of the economy, and what are the concerns that you face today?
Yes, Mini, touch wood, so far we have not had to face.
So far so good.
So far so good, and structurally none of the major regulatory issues impact us. That's very fortunate. There are some progressive legislations like the GST or even the DTC to some extent, which the country should adopt quickly. That has not happened, and to that extent there is a so to say, to use an Indian term, a loss of profits or loss of convenience that the FMCG sector is going through. But I feel that parallelly, apart from the economic slowdown, which I believe has started impacting the sector also in some way, because volume growth rates have started coming down, I think there is another shift which is happening in the marketplace, which is of great relevance to not only FMCG companies but also others. I think the role of IT, information technology, has been very, very significant. It has built the new ways of reaching consumers. It has built new ways of creating product awareness. I'm not talking only of social media. There is in fact, I feel IT has become an all-pervasive development, which is by no means cyclical. It is like a tectonic shift. And if you see many of the social or political issues that have come to the fore, in a way are also because of the huge information arbitrage that IT has enabled. I mean, if you take things like WikiLeaks, in a non-IT scenario, it would have been difficult to imagine something like WikiLeaks coming up. Or for that matter, the use of information for many purposes, the Right to Information Act and so on. So I feel the information technology revolution is creating new challenges for companies. And for the CFO also, there is a new kind of challenge, because there are new gateways of payment, receipts, collections. There are new ways of paying money, even to get into a little bit of technicalities. Starting with the famous poem, which is Place of Effective Management. Where do you feel an internet-based company is located? Or when sitting here, supposing we advertise in Bangladesh using an Indian channel,
Sure.
focused only on Bangladesh, where should we get taxed? So there are all kinds of issues which have come up because of a new way of doing business.
Milind, another issue that I want to touch upon with you is the fact that you represent a company that has made very interesting forays into emerging markets like Middle East and Africa, and that also opens up a new dimension, because not only are we dealing with the volatility over here, but you're also going to uncharted territory where there are other sets of concerns. So very quickly, as a CFO, making that first tentative move in the international markets with acquisitions, with mergers and acquisitions over there, how are you seeing?
I think it has been a mixed bag for us. There are, in fact, for a long while we entered territories which others had not really gone to. They had almost shunned, because we believed that those places were attractive and others did not believe so. And we have made a good mark. For example, in a place like Bangladesh, we are a 15-year-old business. We have a listed company, one of the few Indian companies which are listed overseas arms, and we have done reasonably well. But in Bangladesh, every 5 years there is an election, and there are those business disruptive situations. But on the balance, I would say that in an uncertain place like Bangladesh, we have been able to do well, largely because we have a brand which rules the market. So finally, it comes down to the consumer.
Fundamentals remain the same.
But we have been hit by unforeseen issues. For example, the Arab Spring hit us badly in Egypt, and it continues to hit us. So there are uncertainties, but I believe that if you want to have a widespread portfolio going beyond India as the only emerging market, I think we'll have to take those risks.
And so you represent the retail sector. Tremendous opportunity, but a great example of how perhaps the opportunity is not too easy to get to, because you've seen a fair bit of churn, and in the middle of all of that you have new regulation that allows multi-brand retail to come into the country. How are you seeing, what is your list of priorities right now as CFO?
Yes, so as far as the retail is concerned, if you see last 8 quarters, there is significant slowdown in the consumer demand. We being the modern trade largely are the urban, addressed to the urban consumer. With all those negative news flows, the consumer sentiment has taken a hit. The same-store growth has fallen to a zero level or a lower level, lower than 5% or so. The whole idea is that in a times of slowdown, how you create focus in the company and how you do the bottom fishing, whether the low performing stores to be closed down, low performing SKUs has to be get out of the listing, low performing format has to get out of it and create focus. So the whole idea is we realign our business into 3 buckets: is the food, fashion and the hypermarket business. In the midst of the corporate realignment, this is just going to complete, the front phase has been completed. So in the times of a slowdown, you have to focus how you cut the bottom SKU and so on. At the same time, now we are reaching to the bottoming out the demand. Last quarter demand was a little better. Current quarter it is looking much better, and we are feeling more confident to address the demand. I think for us all the bad times are behind. Now the idea is that how to put energy back into the organization, how to capture the growth opportunity which is coming now. So this 2 years of Vanvas help us in terms of re-question the whole organization and refocus the whole organization.
Girish, let me let you have the last word in this round. So you have a situation where economic cycles have been crunched. What you saw play out in 8 years, 10 years is now being played out in 2-3 years. And as I said, there are multiple issues, because in India there's also a massive cleanup act happening. A lot of stuff is coming from under the carpet. Regulatory issues are being taken up. There's a fight between the legislature, the judiciary, the corporate, and everything is in a period of churn. When you talk to companies, what sense are you getting? Are they learning lessons the hard way, or is there some maturity coming in now?
So clearly, I mean, as you talk to companies, it's very confusing. And while you say that, people are not investing into India, people are very scared. You see a big headline that HUL, there's an open offer of $5.4 billion. And as we talk, there are so many things happening behind the scene. The GSK offer, the HUL offer, you saw the USL offer now, they didn't get any shares, they got some thousands of shares. So though there is a cynicism that things are not in order, though there is a cynicism that things take long time to do and projects are stuck and there is a financial stress and leverage is difficult to get, that's the norm for the day. That instability, insecurity will be there forever. So you can't plan. I mean, you will have choppiness, you will have roller coasters, you won't have merry-go-rounds. But the opportunity still appears to be large. So as I deal with people, they still want to have a pie of the India story. They're still looking at it. The mismatches, the Indian expectations vis-a-vis the global value. So people want to be in India, people want to acquire India, people want to set up shop in India, but there's a valuation mismatch between the Indian founders and the overseas players. So there is skepticism, there is caution, there is a recognition that things are difficult, but nobody is close to the opportunity. Everybody is looking at it very, very carefully. The stress point is where finance is required. Now the new order is there is going to be always financial deleveraging. There's a financial stress, money is not easy. And that's across the world, that's the same in India also. And there is financial protectionism. So each country is trying to keep the finances to itself. US has all the policies to create employment in the US, similarly Europe, so on. And so there's the movement of money, the respective countries are trying to keep it to themselves. So the financial systems have changed forever. There will always be a financial issue because the leverage will not be so fast. But the opportunity is there. People are cautious, but they are looking at India very positively.
You spoke about activism. Activism is also something that is very, very vibrant now, and it's a good thing also because a lot of the clarity is coming through a lot of the intervention that we've seen. My question to you is, what is the role of the CFO in being the check in the ambitions of a corporate? The check when you're facing activists, check when you're looking at governance issues?
In my view, when the promoter wants to grow, I think growth is really required for India, and we are in a very, very advantageous position which none of the other countries have, like domestic demand. So in that scenario, when the promoter wanted to increase or grow the business, I think as a CFO we have to align that along with the governance which is required today because of the activisms which are happening today. So governance is one area which we all should keep it in mind and should ensure that under no circumstances we allow the governance issue to be ignored as far as the current environment is concerned, which is essential, which is good for the long-term story of India and also respective companies.
Right. Milind, would you agree with that? And how would you say a role of a CFO is under the current circumstances?
To say that governance is important and CFO should uphold it is at a plain a motherhood statement. Because finally, what do we have to do as individuals? I think we have to up the individual stake we have in governance, and for that we have to be individually resilient. So I'll come back to the point which I made some time ago, that self-management is very critical for CFOs, because beyond a point the CFO reports to the CEO or the managing director. And if there is an issue happening at the managing director's hands itself, in what way are we going to uphold the governance other than walking out of the company? And you might have read reports, not only recently but even earlier, that CFOs would choose to vote with their feet and walk out of the company. But that's not a long-term solution. I think individually resilient CFOs are important, and the organizations need to put them on that pedestal and draw the governance spirit from them, so to say.
Girish, let me ask you this question. You know, what I often admire about big multinational companies is their ability to scale up and replicate good processes in diverse geographies so that they can actually protect themselves. And that's what processes do. That's what, you know, a very, very tight management does. In India, a lot of companies have expanded exponentially. They're products of a earlier regime. What would you say to them? How should they get those processes, and how much of that should come from the CFO's office really?
So actually there are two things. I mean, I deal with a lot of Indians who have global operations, and I just see two issues, and in the interest of time. First is, are you investing enough in technology? Are you investing enough in processes, the systems and so on and so forth? Second is, do you understand the cultures? Are you hiring international managers? So let's say if you have an Indian founder, it will be very difficult for him to understand how a German thinks. So does he have international CEOs, CFOs, international tax people who understand cultures, ethnocentricities, who can interact and then deal with situations at its own merits? So these are two issues which I see. Imagine you calling up, your German CFO and say, I want to do a meeting with you on Sunday, or do a conference call. You not pick up your phone only. So how do you deal with cultures, get the information, push them to your way of thinking, is one challenge which I see in a lot of Indian
So that's
MNCs.
a more human level challenge. It's not an operational challenge.
Operations is technology. How do you control?
Okay.
How do you invest?
Mr. Venkataraman, part of the discussion is also to look ahead. From your vantage point, and bankers often have the best sense of what it's looking at, when do you see things getting back, or do you think the pain is going to go on for some time? How do you see the road to recovery?
As we see it, I think things have bottomed out to a certain extent. Going forward, we feel that I don't think there is going to be much of a stress, and things are likely to improve because the learnings of the past, maybe the past couple of years of real pain, could always help us in coming out of these issues. And it's going to be a little bit of stress on the banking system, because as long as we hold the burden of the corporates for them to come back on their feet again, it's necessary somebody need to prop them up. I don't think it is going to be any kind of a bleak future or something. We can easily get out of all these issues.
Okay. Will consumers set the investment cycle going?
Yeah. You see that whatever bank rates has been cut down by the RBI, the real lending by the banks has not cut to the extent. If we talk about our large customer base is urban, and then unless their housing EMIs comes down, the spend will not increase on the consuming products. So we believe that going forward, with the inflation softening up, the rate should also come down, and that should also have more money in consumers' hand to spend.
Okay.